What's up guys, and welcome to FPL Today. I'm the man in the know, JNO, and today we're going to discuss the release of the first 3 fixtures or game weeks in the Premier League and how that affects our Fantasy Premier League game. But before we do that, if you do enjoy these kind of videos and you're excited from the Premier League being back, then please do hit that like button down below, subscribe if you're new to the channel, and make sure to leave in the comments down below which players you are going to target off of these first bunch of fixtures. So let's get straight into the video, and we're going to have a look at what the Fantasy Premier League have announced, and then we are going to look at the teams that I'm really targeting as far as the first 3 game weeks are concerned. Now I will just say quickly before we get to the sides is I picked the ones I'm most interested in outside of just the double game week. So of course I am interested in Man City and Arsenal, but long term I think there are potentially better teams to be investing in. So if you're free hitting in the first game week of the return of the Premier League and the Fantasy Premier League, or if you're going to wildcard soon after, then of course Arsenal and Man City would be very good options to go for. There's also some sides with very good fixtures, but I'm not too sure about their form either, so I'm not too keen to gravitate towards too many of their players, although I will mention them and they will definitely be worth a punt for certain periods of the season and will give you those budget options. But what you will see on the screen is the teams I'm very excited about investing in. But first, what did the Fantasy Premier League say after the first 3 game weeks have been announced? And what they said is, with the release of the first 32 Premier League fixtures for the resumption of the 2019 and 20 season, if all safety requirements are in place, we would like to offer an update to Fantasy Premier League FPL managers. Aston Villa versus Sheffield United and Manchester City versus Arsenal on 17th of June. Got June, not July, and the 4-match round that follows from the 19th of June will constitute the first full game week, which is what we already knew. For the 3 match rounds announced, FPL deadlines will be the traditional hour before kickoff of the opening match of that round. We would like to remind managers that any chips you retain at present, i.e. triple captain, bench boost, free hit and or wildcard, would remain available for you in accordance with the game rules for those game weeks. We thank FPL managers for their continued patience and will provide you further updates on the game when appropriate. So of course, their Premier League, and because of the Premier League doing it this way, the Fantasy Premier League can only really plan for the first 3 game weeks announced, because who knows what could happen in the world situation and who knows exactly what teams can and can't play at certain points. So it's going to be a little bit more fluid than we're used to. You're maybe not going to be able to plan as far in advance as you're used to, but we know for certain that they're going to try and play these first 3 game weeks the way they have announced. Of course, just go to the Fantasy Premier League website or the app and you'll be able to see the fixtures. We're going to look at the teams that have 3 good first fixtures for the return of the Premier League that I am definitely excited about. And the teams I'm most excited about are Wolves, Chelsea and Leicester City. Now of course you do have the honourable mentions of the likes of Arsenal, who do have a very good fixture list. It does start with Man City, but then it's Brighton, Hove Albion, Southampton and Norwich after that. And we do have the likes of Norwich City, who have Southampton, Everton and Arsenal in the next 3, and Newcastle United if you want to take a punt on their defence, because the defence is decent, Sheffield United, Aston Villa and Bournemouth. And you can also have a look at the likes of Manchester United, who have Tottenham, Sheffield United and Brighton Hove Albion. You have the likes of Sheffield United with Aston Villa and Newcastle in the double game week, which is very exciting. Then Man United and Tottenham. And then we also have Manchester City, Arsenal and Burnley, Chelsea and Liverpool, but it is Man City. Burnley with the likes of Man City, Watford, Crystal Palace. And then of course Liverpool, who we pretty much consider fixture proof if they carry on their form from before the season halted, and that's Everton, Crystal Palace and Man City. But as you can see from the graphic, I've decided to highlight Wolves, Chelsea and Leicester City. Now the appeal of Wolves is the fact that they're facing a lot of teams from the bottom of the table who don't have great defences in the likes of West Ham, Bournemouth and Aston Villa. Now the downside to that is potentially these sides have the most to play for and are going to want to get those all important points to stay in the Premier League. However, Wolves were in form before the season halted and these sides weren't. So if you're going to go off how the Premier League was going before we had the whole lockdown, Wolves were definitely a side with very good fixtures moving forward. The players I would look at in defence, you do have some budget options like a Bolly and Sice, and then up front you do have the likes of Diogo Jota and Raul Jimenez, who were in good form before the season halted. And you've also got the likes of Matt Doherty, who was getting some good returns from defence, but of course was your more premium option going forward in that defence. We then also have Chelsea, who also take on Aston Villa and West Ham, which is of course appealing to us. They do have Manchester City in there, which is an obstacle for the short term, but potentially you could look at rotating depending on which options you picked. Of course, there is also the likelihood that Tammy Abraham could be back. You have the likes of Christian Pulisic who could be back as well. And with some of the issues they've had around some of their other wingers, potentially Pulisic could be coming in to be a force to be reckoned with. Then you've also got Marcos Alonso, who was having a bit of a return to form before the season halted as well, that you could look at. And then last but not least, let's not forget Mason Mount, who now he's had some rest, could return to the form that he had at the beginning of the season. And then finally we've got Leicester City, who have Watford, Brighton Hove Albion and Everton. Leicester City also near the top of the table, wanting to make sure they keep that Champions League berth. You do of course have the obvious options of Jamie Vardy, but Harvey Barnes was looking decent before the season stopped as well. You had a Jose Perez who'd come up with a few returns, and also with Ricardo Pereira expected to miss the rest of the season, there is James Justin, who would be a nice 4.7 million way into that Leicester City defence, and that's definitely a player I'm going to be looking at, as wing backs in the Leicester City side do seem to have a decent potential for attacking returns. Anyway guys, hopefully that has been helpful for you to start planning how you're going to return to the Fantasy Premier League. Tell me what players you are interested in the comments down below, and we can have a discussion about it there. As always, as soon as this video goes up, if I can, and I'm not at work, unfortunately I am returning to work, I will try and respond to as many of the comments down in the comments down below as possible. Let's get excited for the Fantasy Premier League being back. Let's have some fun, because in a time like it is right now, having fun is a way we can get through it and start looking forward to the future. So guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe if you are new to the channel. I've been JNO, this has been FPL Today, and remember, it's all about the game.